everyone, Kelly here, and today I'm going to do a book unhaul. I have a lot of books, like it fills my entire couch, basically. And the reason this is happening is that, 2 years ago we had moved to Minnesota and I had packed up all the books that I owned. I did do a little unhaul before we left, but I packed everything up. We moved here. The first year that we lived here, we lived in a rental. I didn't want to unpack everything, so I just had like a couple boxes of books I opened, and then we moved to our permanent house a year into living here. And then it took 6 months for my husband to build my shelves, which if you have seen any of my recent videos, I have like a whole wall of shelves in my living room. And so when I finally unpacked my boxes and boxes of books and was filling that shelf, I just had like a lot of books that I was like, I just don't have room on this shelf, and I don't know that these are the books I want to have on this shelf. And there's two categories. There's books I've already read, and the majority of these, there's some that I read recently and I just didn't like very much. Basically, I only keep books that are like 4 or 5 stars. So even if I give them 3 stars, I still don't keep them on my shelf, really. And so I have some of those that are more recent, but most of these were like when I pulled them out of the boxes, I was like, I really don't need to keep these books. Like, I liked them. Some of these were even 4 stars, but I'm not planning on rereading them, or they're just not favorites, so they just didn't have room on the shelf. And then I have a big stack of books I haven't read that as I was unpacking, I just had lost interest and decided I'm not going to read those anymore. And I'm doing this now because I'm going to Minneapolis this weekend and hoping to go to Half Price Books because we don't have anywhere up here to really take used books. We've got a couple used bookstores, but right now they're either at hold on taking books. Like we have one that just closed, so their hundreds of books are going to be, put somewhere around here. And so like all the little free libraries are full right now, and the used bookstores are just not taking books. So this is like my one time to get rid of them. And so let's film an unhaul, because I don't know, I like watching people get rid of things, so maybe you do too. I'm not gonna talk about all these. I just have them kind of categories so that this will go faster, because there is quite a lot. I'll have to count at the end and put up how many I'm actually getting rid of. So let's start with the ones that I have kind of read more recently since we moved here, and I just didn't love them, and so I don't need them on my shelf. So I have Africa Risen, which is a short story collection. I just realized that short story collections from a bunch of different authors is not my jam. I prefer one author's collection. I have Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen, which she is one of my favorite authors, but she hadn't written a book in a while, and this newer one just isn't what I wanted, or maybe I've changed as a reader since I read her past ones. I have The Farthest Shore, which is one of the Earthsea books, and I'm keeping the first 2 in this series, and I really like them. This was just my least favorite, and I can't imagine rereading this one, even if I reread the first 2 books. They're kind of, not that they stand alone completely, they have some characters that move from book to book, but you don't really necessarily need, I think, this book in order to move to the next one, so I'm not going to reread that one. Daddy Longlegs, I really did not like this book, so that is what definitely didn't like it. Don't want it on my shelves. Amber and Clay, this was fine. This was like a 3-star for me. A lot of people love it, so it's in good condition. I figure somebody else will love it more than me, so I should pass it on to somebody else. And then Lore of the Land is like a picture kind of folklore book that I just didn't love. So yeah, those will all get moved on. And now we're moving on to ones that I had opened, and I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to reread these books, but a lot of these actually were 4 stars, so 3 or 4 stars, and so I didn't hate them. The Book of Lost Things by John Connolly, Red Leaves by Sita Brahmachari, The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, which I know is a lot of people's favorites. It just wasn't one of my favorites, so I can't imagine, visiting it again, so let somebody else have a cheaper copy. Room by Emma Donoghue, Just Haven't Met You Yet, and The Accidental Beauty Queen are just kind of romances that I don't see myself returning to. Penance by Kanai Minato, and I loved Confessions, but this one I liked but didn't love like I love Confessions. The Orphan Witch by Paige Crutcher, and this is one, I think I have a couple of these where I had read a bunch of witch books. Yeah, I have another one here that I read in the same like vlog. I have The Familiars by Stacey Halls. These were both witch books that I read and liked but won't return to. The Diviners by Libba Bray. I did really like this and I'm liking the series, but I've been listening to them in audiobook, so I don't plan on buying the rest of the series. So I was like, why should I keep just the first one if I'm not going to buy everything else? And I actually also listened to this one on audiobook, so I didn't even read my copy of it. Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabashal Rice, which is a dystopian that I enjoyed and I recommend. I actually might keep this because I had somebody I wanted to give this to. So I'm actually, instead of taking it to Half Price Books, I'm going to pass that on to someone else. I have Red at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson. I think she's a great author. This just wasn't like my favorite of her books. Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. I really enjoyed this thriller. I actually think I might have given it 5 stars, but I just don't reread thrillers unless there's something about them, like Confessions, like by this author, I did keep because I could see myself returning to that book, but I don't see myself rereading this thriller even though I enjoyed it. I have a couple young adult romances, books that I liked at the time, but I'm probably not going to revisit. I have Our Way Back to Always by Nina Moreno and Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I would recommend those to young adult people, but I don't think I'm going to return it to them at this point in my life. I have The Anomaly by Hervé Letellier. I actually don't know if I said that correctly. This one I think a lot of people would enjoy. I don't think I'm going to reread it. Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I don't know that I'm going to continue this series. Like, it was all right, but I don't know, and I probably won't end up continuing it, so why keep the first book? I have Lake House by Kate Morin. I did really enjoy this, but it's kind of like a longer, slow-moving book, so I just don't see myself rereading it. And 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I just didn't love this one as much as a lot of other people did, so I figure somebody else should get a nice hardback copy of it. And then I have a few middle grade books that I read. Some of these I read with my kids, and I asked my daughter if she wanted any of these, and she said no, so I'm gonna move on with them. I have Tuesdays at the Castle by Jessica Day George, which we did really like this when we read it, but she's kind of outgrown it. And my younger one, I have so many books that I will pass on to her. I don't need to keep all of them for her. I have The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street by Karina Young Glaser. Cinders and Sparrows. This one I actually read as part of that witch vlog, but it's like a middle grade witch book. It was fun. It was fine. Ghost Squad by Claribel A. Ortega. I thought this was entertaining, but my daughter wasn't interested in it. And then A Properly Unhaunted Place by William Alexander. Another one that I actually really enjoyed this one, but my daughter's just not into kind of like horror middle grade. Then I have a couple of ones that are kind of like from when I was younger, and I'm just ready to get rid of them. I have The Second Summer of the Sisterhood, and I do like the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants books. They have like nostalgia in my heart, but this is the only one of the series I own, so I don't see why I should just keep one in the series. It's not even the first one. And then I have Ink Death by Cornelia Funke, which once again, it's only one of the series. I tried rereading this series recently and I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first time, so I just don't think I'm going to end up rereading that third one because I wasn't loving the first and second one when I reread it a couple years ago. And then I have a couple books that, some of these I own other copies, or I just don't like this copy. Like, I have a whole box set of Anne of Green Gables, and I have actually four copies of the first book in this series in this house, and I have one other box set that somebody has bought me. And I just, even though these are like cute, small, and colorful, the writing in these, like the font is very tiny, so I kept my other box set instead of this one. And then I still have 2 other copies of Anne of Green Gables in this house. So it's not that I don't like Anne of Green Gables, I just don't need this many copies of it in the house. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, which I just read recently, and I know this version is pretty, but this is like impossible to read. I ended up having to do audiobook because I'm like, this is short and fat and a hardback, and it's just, I'm never gonna read this version. And then I have The Lord of the Rings, and this one also has The Hobbit, and this collection has like the tiniest font ever, like so tiny. So I'm never gonna read these. I ended up listening to them on audiobook, and I'm never gonna read this font. I mean, the older I get, my eyesight's not getting any better. So yeah, this is not gonna happen, this tiny little font. And that was all the books that I have read, and now on to books I haven't read, and I have some different categories for these. Here's like a stack of read alouds that I had gotten when I was homeschooling, and we just ran out of time, or my daughter wasn't interested in these. A lot of these were super cheap from either a little free library or a used bookstore, so I just don't see a reason to hold on to them. I rechecked with her. She's still not interested. Like I said, I have a younger daughter, but she's more into graphic novels than like these kind of chapter books. And I own so many. Like we still have, trust me, I still have plenty of books for her to read. I don't need to keep like every single one, especially ones that are in kind of bad condition. So I have like Island of the Blue Dolphins and Julie of the Wolves and Betsy Tacy. Like these were all probably like 50 cents. From the mixed up files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, Miracles on Maple Hill, The Family Under the Bridge, Unusual Chickens for the Exceptional Poultry Farmer. And we did start reading this. We made it like halfway, and then we spilled water all over it, and it got really bad. And then we just kind of gave up reading it for no real reason other than after we spilled water, we took a break and then didn't get back to it. Going kind of in a similar theme, these are books that are in formats that I just, or like bad copies, that I'm just not gonna keep this copy. So I have The Road to Memphis, and I don't know if you could tell, but this is like an old library copy that it has been like sealed over top, and it just is not a great version of it. Clan of the Cave Bear, you could probably see how bad of a condition this book is in. Monster also is pretty rough condition. There was a while when I was getting a lot of used bookstore books, and if I'm not like super wanting to read these books right at the moment and they're a really bad copy, I'll just go to the library and get like a nicer library version of it if I want to read it. This is a book that makes me mad, so I have to get off my shelf. The Last of the Moon Girls. This was a library book, and then when I turned it back in, you could see there's like water damage, and they said I did the water damage, and I don't think I did. And now if I return a book and I see that like, or if I get a book from the library and I see it's in kind of bad condition, I take a picture of it right when I check it out, and then when I return it, because I had to pay full price for this book. Like, what is that? Like $18 or something like that for this book to replace it for the library. And I didn't even want to read it, so, which was why I was returning it. So I'm mad. I don't want it on my shelves. Flowers for Algernon. I actually think I do want to read this. I just don't really want the mass market paperback because I don't have any of those on my shelf, so it messes up my heights. The Knife of Never Letting Go. You could see how bad this copy is. It's just pretty beat up. Probably got it for 20 cents. The Uprising is another one that has a pretty bad cover, which you can't really see. It's just pretty folded. I think it's an old children's copy from like a school. Everwild by Neil Schusterman. This one used to be a library book, and when I like took off the plastic, it kind of ripped the cover a bit. And oh man, this is from my library of like as a child. I didn't realize that. So I don't know, I must have gone at some point back to my childhood home and gotten this from a library sale. So yeah, those are all ones that are just, I could, if I want to read them, I will read a different copy. I'm not going to read like the beat up cheapo copy I got for like 20 cents. All right, let's move on to, let's go to more books that I got at library sales or got for free. Like some of these I got from, well, I think most of these either people gave them to me or they came from library sales. So they were free or like 25 cents, and I just have lost interest in them. I have Birdie and Me, which if somebody's looking for something with like a non-binary character in a middle grade novel, I'd recommend that one. I just am not really interested in reading it right at the moment. The Extraordinary Colors of Auden Dare, Sputnik's Guide to Life on Earth, The Next Great Polly Fink, and all of these I did run by my daughter too, all of the middle grade ones, not interested. The River at Night. This one was a library sale book, but then I checked the, what are they called? The reviews, and it gets like terrible reviews. So I was like, well, do I really need to keep it when I only spent 25 cents on it? This one a friend left in my house after she stayed here, Innocence and Sensibility, and I thought I was gonna read it, and I just haven't in like the 2 years since she left it here. The In the Midst of Winter by Isabel Allende, and I know a lot of people love this author, and so I picked it up at a library sale, and in those 3 years I haven't read it. Maybe someday I will pick up this author, but I don't need it on my shelf right at the moment. The Boy from the Woods. I've never read anything by Harlan Coben, and I've read reviews that this maybe is not the place to start with him anyways, so let's get rid of that. Before We Visit the Goddess, and I have another book by this author that I do want to read that's based off of mythology, but this one's more of like a family drama, and so I don't think that, I mean, maybe if I read the other one and love it, I might end up reading that again someday, but for now it doesn't need to be on my shelves. A Gentleman in Moscow, which I know everybody's probably like, what are you doing getting rid of that and you hadn't read it? I just have not been pulled to read this book since I got it, and since I got it for like 25 cents, I don't need to keep it. If I decide someday I do want to read this book, I know they have this at the library since it's so popular, so maybe someday. All right, the next stack are books that I have tried and DNF'd, or I just know I don't want to read this author, and so I'm just moving away from those books. I have Fly By Night by Frances Hardinge, and I read about a third of this book, and it just wasn't the book for me. I have read other Frances Hardinge books that I like, that just wasn't my cup of tea. A Quiet Kind of Thunder. I think I read half of this book and I just realized I'm not really as much into young adult romance, and so some other teen will pick this up at the used bookstore and like it. I have 2 Ruta Sepetys books, and I just have decided I don't like her writing. I know people love it, but I was just not compelled at all. I picked up Between Shades of Grey, read I think like a third of it, and just never wanted to pick it back up, and so I'm just getting rid of both that one and Salt to the Sea. I just think I missed the boat on Ruta Sepetys, and I'm just not interested. I have A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman, which people are like, what do you mean you're getting rid of this? I have just not ever loved a Frederick Bachman book. I will admit. I've read about 3, maybe 4, and I just don't think he's for me, even though he's very popular and for a lot of people. Maybe someday I'll try Beartown. I don't know, but I just have, and plus, you know, if I really wanted to read Frederick Bachman one day, these are all at the library, so I don't need to keep it. White is for Witching by Helen Oyoyemi, and I did start this one. Didn't love it. It was just, it's very experimental in its writing, it feels like, and I just wasn't getting into it. I have The Vanishing Man by Charles Finch, and I love this series. This is called the Charles Lennox series, but what he did is, like, most of these are taking place when Charles Lennox, the detective, is like in his 30s or 40s or whatever, and this prequel goes back to when he's a teenager, like in college or whatever, and I just don't enjoy him as a young man, so I'm not gonna continue reading the prequels. I'll just stick to the main series. And then I have The We Free Men, and this makes me sad because I really want to like Terry Pratchett, and maybe I'll give him a chance another time, but I tried to read another book from the Discworld, and I tried it like 3 different times. I tried it both in regular, like physical copy, and on audio. I just couldn't get into it. And I know this is a different like segment. I know Discworld's separated and other things, but I've owned this for so long and I've never picked it up, and I think that I'm just not gravitating towards this at this point. And the last category are just books that when I opened up the box, I was like, I'm just not interested in having this on my shelf at the time. Not saying I'll never read these books, but currently I don't want them on my shelf. I have My Life as an Ice Cream Sandwich by E.B. Savoy, and actually this probably should go in the other stack because I did start reading this and I just wasn't loving the writing. I think I read like 5 chapters and I wasn't loving the writing, so that one's more a DNF. I have Speak, which by Laurie Halse Anderson, which I know is kind of a classic, a more modern classic, and so I might read this someday, but I just have not been in the space to read about essay like in the last couple years, so I don't know that I'm going to get to that anytime soon. I have The Very Far North, and this one actually probably should have been in a different category too, because this one was given to me like in a giveaway, and my daughter and I were going to do it as a read aloud, and we never got to it, and now she's not really that interested in it, and so moving on. I'll Give You the Sun. I think that if I was younger, I would really like this. I'm just not pulled towards it right now. I have Mary Riley, which this is like kind of a gothic novel that's a retelling of Jekyll and Hyde from I think it's from the housekeeper's point of view, and the ratings for this is just terrible, so I just decided that I wasn't interested in it. I have This Is How It Always Is by Lori Frankel, and I go back and forth with this one because I've had this recommended to me, and I know a lot of people love it, but then I've also heard that the transgender community doesn't necessarily think this is good representation. So I'm torn, but I figured I don't need it on my shelf right now. I have The Child by Fiona Barton, and I think I've read something else by Fiona Barton, and it was fine, but it wasn't like something I need to own. Other detective novels by this author. I have The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapina, and I actually think this is another one that I should have put in my DNF category because I did start this and I just wasn't compelled and I never picked it back up, so that one's gonna go. I have Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, and I had read, what's the other series? Now I can't remember. Yeah, whatever the other series is by this author, the duology, I had read that one and I liked it, but the writing didn't really fully click with me, so I just didn't imagine that I would pick up another full trilogy by that author. The Color of Our Sky, and this was one that is one of the oldest books, like as in a book that I've owned the longest, and I hadn't gotten to it, so I was like, if I haven't gotten to it in the last like 7-8 years, I probably just am not that interested if I've had it that long. This is another one that actually should have been with the free category. This was passed on to me from my mom, Lilac Girls, and it sounds plenty interesting. It's World War II historical fiction, but I just haven't picked it up since she gave it to me years ago. The Mother-in-Law by Sally Hepworth. I just haven't been compelled to read anything by Sally Hepworth, even though she's kind of a more popular thriller writer. I saw this in a used bookstore and I was like, oh, I want to read Sally Hepworth, and then it sat there for years. So obviously, no, I actually don't want to read Sally Hepworth. And then I have the last book, The Beekeeper's Daughter. And this is one that is kind of like a retelling of Sherlock and Holmes, or like a continuation. So this is like Sherlock and Holmes, like Sherlock Holmes, not Sherlock and Holmes, Sherlock Holmes later in life. And then we're kind of following this woman detective that's like working with Sherlock as he's retired. And I don't know, I just never felt compelled to pick it up. So I think it's time to move on. So that's it. A lot of books. I'll put the number here so you see how many I'm getting rid of, and it feels good to be finally getting these out of the house because I've had these boxes in boxes for so long. And you know, when you've had something in a box for so long and you open it up and you're like, I just don't have emotional attachment to these anymore, it's time to get rid of it. Okay, just real quick, I'm going to show you what I ended up getting from Half Price Books. So like I had said, I had about 90 books, and then I had some more children's books, so I think I probably brought in about 130 books, and I got $30 for that. And that, I know that seems really low, but you know, they have to make a profit. And I brought in a lot of, like, you know, library sale quality books that probably, I don't even know if they're going to sell those or if they just end up donating those. So I didn't get much. And originally I was thinking if I could just get 3 books, I'd be fine with that. And I did end up getting 3 things, but I did not get 3 books. I got 1 book, a game, and a puzzle. So the book I got was One Dark Window by Rachel, Gillig. The sticker's covering that up. And this is a romantasy book. I've heard it around. I just wasn't really willing to pay full price for it because I just don't know if I like romantasy, which I think I'm going to do a video soon because I have recently purchased a couple romantasy books. And I think I might do a video where I try them out and let you know if this genre is going to work for me. I'm trying to be a little selective about which romantasy books I try, because this is supposed to be kind of gothic, and so I thought that might be something I'd be interested in. But anyways, yeah, I think I'm going to try that one. And then the game I got is called Trio. It's a card game, and I played this with people that I met up with in Minneapolis. I met up with some other booktubers, Instagram, Bookstagram people, and we played this game, and it was fun and it was easy. So I think it's something my kids could play. So that's why I just went ahead and picked that one up. And then the puzzle I got is book adjacent because it is the world of Bridgerton, and it is obviously like from, I'm trying to think of these are, yeah, it looks like the actors from the movie. So it's definitely more based on the movie, but the movie, or the TV show, but the TV show is based off the book. So I got that. So that's all I got for my exchange of the books, but at least they're not going in a landfill. So that's about all I can ask for. And that's it for me. I'll see you next time. Bye.